So one of the conversations here that I've been trying to parse out, this podcast is called Yours Truly. And it's I don't last time we talked, I shared with you about how finding out how to become like a full person, a person full of truth was instead of just like trying to discover what is true. Um and
Uh-huh.
that became something that I experienced and something that I could feel related to something like my conscience. And so in that journey, something that has really stood out to me as I started learning more about finance was, crypto technology and specifically Bitcoin, and how I, I I began to understand how financial relationships are supposed to be built on trust, and that's actually been a problem in society over time. And then, um, if we're trying to build things based off of things that are true, based off things that we can trust, um, and with the future of artificial intelligence and societal trust probably in some ways at an all-time low, do you see the crypto technology, this idea that Bitcoin can have like a deep level, like an automatic trust built in as a really solid foundation for building something maybe related to game B type world with?
Hmm. So let's just walk down the history of money, or the way that what was his name, Graeber, articulated it, which I think is as close to correct as we're going to get in this generation. And remember that money starts with real high bandwidth relationship of debt. Right? So it's people who know each other well and have a sense of debt between them. So literally, like my neighbor, and the classic, like my neighbor comes over and borrows a cup of sugar from our house. So now she's indebted to us by a cup of sugar. She remembers it. I remember it, and frankly, a number of the other members of the neighborhood might remember it too. So it's embodied in a context of shared relationship, and just relationships of debt in that larger milieu. And then what happens is, by the way, I've articulated or thought about this notion of the egregore, or way of thinking about this category of the demon mammon. There's a co-causal relationship that begins to emerge, where on the one hand we discover that there's a usefulness of extending the networks of debt relationships outside of the existing context of people who we know well. It makes sense, right? If I can find somebody who I don't know well and create a relationship with them where they owe me something or I owe them something, then I get the advantage of whatever their skill set or resources or capacity are, which is currently not available inside my community. But has the disadvantage that relationship by its very nature is a much lower bandwidth, much lower fidelity relationship, because I don't know them that well, again, by definition. So you have these two things going on. And what happens is that we develop techniques to try to enable that particular piece of the relationship that we care about, which in this case is the ability to have the transactional element stay valid, i.e., we can trust that the debt will be repaid, without having to necessarily expand our real communal relationship out to include it. This is the technological edge of money. So, for example, one of the earlier versions you would have is, as the number of debt relationships you're beginning to develop are larger than your ability to just remember them easily in your head, you might put them on a stick and you break the stick in half. Right? It's the tally stick. And then what happens is that when you resolve the debt, we match the two pieces together, verify that, yep, this is it, and then you're done. You throw it away, you break it up so it's gone, like it's been resolved. And then, of course, it's discovered that if you're holding one side of the tally stick, you could give that to somebody else. That somebody else doesn't know me at all. But now that debt is now due to them, not to you. And that becomes a power. There's a power of extending a certain quality of relationship, in this case, debt or economic transaction relationships, beyond the human environment. And that's a huge piece of the human story, is actually finding ways of extending the range of our relationships by narrowing them to a purposeful dimension, away from the larger, holistic, rich context of being in communal relationships. And money is one of the primary, if not the central elements of that. Language